Hey everybody, welcome to Power Hour, starring me, Ron Harris, and of course the one and only Tiger Thomas, Giles Tiger Thomas from the UK. Today we're going to be talking about the top two names, or two of the biggest names, getting ready for the Arnold Classic coming up shortly, who are doing this without coaches. We're talking about Nick Walker and Sam Sulek. And Giles, we've spoken about doing this without a coach before. We're not anti-coach, but I know you also are of the belief that it can be done without a coach. It's been done successfully many times.
Yeah, I mean, really, when did the whole coach thing really come in? I mean, it used to be, the first coach that I really knew of that kind of really was prominent was Chad Nichols. And you're talking like late 90s, wasn't it? Like about 97, Flex Wheeler, then the Ronnie, Nasser, they all worked with him. Because I remember one year, because he used to take, was it 15 or 20% of the deal was he took 15 or 20% of their prize winnings. Yeah. So I remember, I forget how the story was in the magazine. I heard it somewhere. I've got, it's quite a well-known story that Chad was in the audience and he basically was adding up with on a piece of paper or calculator or something, how much he'd made, because it was like 15 or 20%. He's like, okay, well, he's getting 100, so I'm getting 20K of that. Nice. And then it was, and he was trying to work out which one was the one that wasn't, gonna play sixth and get lowest. But he was basically working out the shit. Well, regardless, I've pretty much made this much today because this is the top six. Because remember when the top six used to be the pose down? That was it. But yeah, so he was kind of working out. So anyway, that was the kind of first real coaches. But a lot of the pros back then, the Lee Priests and everybody else, they never even entertained the idea of working with coaches. They just had training partners and people that looked at them and stuff like that. But actual coaches, then it was kind of a C2 that came along. And then the kind of the Hanny Rambods and all the the Patrick Tours and stuff. I'd say that the whole coaching phenomenon has only really come along in the last 20 years. Then I think every 5 years it seems to be that it goes down a level, as in it's at the point now where you've got first timers, not even considering competing unless they've got a coach, which to me is absolute madness. I mean, that it's not the thing is it's madness to me because I'm from the era of the 90s and stuff like that. So where we never even considered having coaches. I mean, I competed from 2004 to 2013. And people at my level back then, you never even considered working with coaches. I mean, in UK, maybe you had a couple of the JD Dewadis and a couple of the top pros that were working with someone. And that was someone that was local that could train with them and look at them. All this kind of remote coaching and check-ins and stuff like that. That's really only in the last, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, it's become almost mandatory in the minds of most competitors that you can't do this on your own. And I wonder if it's just because the pharmaceutical side with all these other PEDs like the peptides that have come along, there's so much to know on the PED side. There's so many more different drugs, and you need to know the doses, the timing, the interactions. And I think just most people are too lazy, or they lack the confidence to do the research and learn all about that themselves. So they hand over the reins. Nutrition, I don't think, is ever that complicated. I mean, guys were dieting successfully in the 80s on, chicken, rice, broccoli. It's not diet is not rocket science. You cut the carbs, you eat clean, you get lean. It's not, there's more to it than that, but there's not a whole lot to it. But I'm gonna get into let's look at the guys. So
hang on. I just want to pick you up on a point you just said there about the gear thing. It's so complicated. I think gear is about as complicated as diet. I don't think it is very complicated. And I think the ones that overcomplicate it, the ones that want to put it out there that it's complicated, are the coaches that are basically people are paying to say, oh, this is complicated. You better pay me to tell you what to take. I mean, most of the pros, you and me have but literally, we've spoken to everyone. And yeah, we have, even though I try to avoid the subject, sometimes the subject has come up, and maybe, especially if you're training with them or you're spending time with them, and they're baffled at what some of the coaches are coming out with. And these were the guys that were the top of the top, So a lot of them do say, well, I just took the basics. And I mean, I won't even say his name, but like a real certain top pro that I was speaking to in the last couple of years, I was talking to him about certain things, and he's like, Giles, I've never even heard of that. He says, we just use, because I remember I was talking about clenbuterol. Okay. And he said, I said, so how much clen, what are the fat burning, sort of beta agonists or whatever do you use? And he says, I just use 40 microgram of Clen. And I said, so how do you cycle it? When do you take it? What do you take it up to? And he says, no, that's all I take. I was like, okay. He said, well, I went up to 60 once. He says, and I felt so ill. I had to go back. I went to the gym, felt so sick, and I couldn't train. So I got in the car and went home, and basically just until it wore off, I didn't like it. So, you know, even the top pros are really, and they're just not the top pros because they're in the know. I mean, I think that's what the mystique is. That's what they want to put out there. They want you to think that it's so complicated, and these coaches are giving these pros these magic stacks and turning them from a local regional guy to a top 6 Olympia guy. It's just not the case.
Well, again, this goes back to trying to spread the myth or the fallacy that average genetics can be overcome or compensated for with tons and tons of drugs, which that's a great selling point because most people are average. Mm-hmm. There are very few of these genetic elites out there. So if you tell an average guy, listen, it's all drugs, I can take you to the top, you know, just listen to me, do what I say, versus telling them, you know what, you don't have the genetics, and then they're gone. They're not your client. Yeah, they might not compete. So you want to keep these people competing. You want to keep these people as coaching clients. You keep reinforcing that belief that whatever shortcomings you have genetically that your parents did not bestow upon you in the womb, I can help. Let's take X amount of this, X amount of that, and, you know, transform you into this Arnold Classic champion or something. So not going to. All right, well, let's listen to Sam Sulek, and here's what he had to say about who his new coach, and I knew he was going to,
Who's coaching you this prep? You're looking at him. You're looking at him right friggin' here, man. I'm with the coaching. I mean, I feel like I want to be able to just do it on my own because I know my own stuff. I'm doing it because I want to do it. I feel like at the end of the day, it's my thing. So I want to be 100% responsible. So come the Arnold, I mean, shit, if I show up looking like total trash, well, that's on me. That's 100% on me. I got to own it, you know?
Good for him, man. Good for him. I mean, especially as a young guy who came up, he's only 20, I think he's 24 years old. So as long as he's been doing this, everyone's had a coach. So for him to have that confidence to be able to do it himself a second time, because remember, this was a year ago, not even a year ago, where he won the Arnold Amateur Classic Physique overall, coaching himself, and he got into great condition. So I'm sure he's been contacted by more than a few top name coaches in this past year, probably offering to coach him for free, because who wouldn't want to say, I'm Sam Sulek's coach? And he has not only the courage, but just the belief in himself to say, you know what, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this on my own, because then it's going to be 100% on me, whether I look fantastic or I look like dog shit.
Do you know the thing I like about Sam is he kind of marches to the beat of his own drum. He just kind of does what he wants. He doesn't seem to sort of fall prey to the kind of trends. Like somebody was saying, when he first hit the scene, I've heard about the Sam Sulek guy, and he said, I don't know why he's getting so many views, because his videos are they're poorly edited, and they're this and they're that. And it's like, well, whatever he's doing is clearly working. So he's somebody, he seems to be like someone that just basically, I wouldn't say like it looks like he's a loner, but he's someone who just basically does his thing. He does it with authenticity, and I think that's probably why people are so drawn to him, because you know, like sometimes you see these not even like, I mean, he's done reasonably well as a competitor so far, but sometimes you see them and they, you know, as soon as they get a bit of you know, fame or popularity or whatever, you start to see them with an entourage, and they're mixing in different circles. I just like the fact that he's still the same kid that he was a couple of years ago. He doesn't seem to have changed. It just seems to be a young kid doing his thing, doing it the way he wants to do it, having the time of his life. And he doesn't seem to be affected by everything. And I think that's, I think long term, I think that's going to really, I mean, it's benefited him short term, but I think long term, I think it's really going to, sort of benefit, you know, his overall career, because he's someone that's probably, he's not going to fall prey to the, I'm going to have to take high doses, I'm going to have to do this, I'm going to have to do that. He just basically does what the hell he wants to do, likes to take the credit for it when it goes right, or if it goes horribly wrong, he takes the fall. I think he's just someone who's just loving what he's doing, making a great living at it. And and I think that's, like I said, I like the way that he doesn't seem to be influenced by, can you imagine how many coaches would have been beating his door down? I mean, literally probably every single coach has probably sort of like sent him a message or, got somebody to reach out to him. And I love the way that Sam's just going, nah, I'm just going to do my own thing. I love it. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, you make a good point out about he hasn't changed because he is one of the most successful people in the entire industry, bar none. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Much more successful than most guys on the Olympia stage or the Arnold Classic stage in open bodybuilding or classic or anything. And, I don't see him driving Lamborghinis and with the... Yeah,
that's what I mean. That's what I like about him, man. Like, I'll be honest, Ron, I wasn't a fan straight away because it's not that I was a hater. I wasn't not a fan. It's just that I'm not the demographic he appeals to because, I mean, if I was 19, 20 and now, like now, and he came along, I probably would be following everything because he's just very grounded and very sort of real. And I think, and honestly, when he competed and, and chose to do that show and he looked good and he won, my respect for him went to a whole new level. And I started to look at him a bit more closely because I just thought, I don't really know much about this kid, so I can't really comment. But once I started looking closer at him, I just thought, I really like the way he goes about his business. I just think it's very, very cool. And like I said, he's just a young kid, just, living what, I mean, I can identify 20-year-old Tiger can definitely identify with Sam Sulek. I mean, imagine, whole 20s. I mean, you'd have just been looking up to him as like, he speaks for us. You can really identify with everything. He's got the cats and, and he just loves to train. He just loves getting big. He loves, like I see all these funny memes where he's at business meetings and he's pulling his pants down and stuff. And then someone superimposed it. And I like it. Because that's who he is. And I think if that ever changes, I think then I think his popularity will start to dip because there's nothing fake about him. And I think that's what will, because a lot of these influencers, you know what it's like. They're here today, they're gone tomorrow. Who's popular today isn't popular tomorrow. And I think as long as he stays interested in bodybuilding, I think that's what basically guides him. I think that's what keeps him on track. Because I think first and foremost, he's not someone like I was a kid in the gym a few months ago. And he had a vest on and he had no legs and he had a bit of a pretty good upper body and he had his tripod and he was filming himself and he didn't move off the cable crossover because he was doing push downs and he was doing it in front of the mirror and he was looking at himself. And then he was behind the counter and he was talking about how you can make so much money being an influencer and doing this. And basically like talking about his career. It was like he was sitting down in a job center, talking to the careers officer, saying, I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to be this. And, and you can imagine just rolling their eyes. But this kid was just like, I'm doing this because I want to make money. I want to do this because I want to be famous. I want millions of followers. I can't imagine Sam, it's like when I told Ronnie how many subscribers he had on YouTube on his podcast once, and you could see he didn't know. And he was like, yeah, I know. I think it's the best news ever. And you could see he didn't even have a clue. He didn't even know because it's just things like that aren't important to him, And I think with Sam, I think what's important to him is going to the gym, getting big, and he just happens to be documenting it all, and millions of kids are identifying with it. They're loving it, and I think it's inspiring them. So I think he's I don't think he's a bad role model at all. I think he's good. And like I said, I haven't really watched that many of his videos, but I think what he does comes across. I think it comes across with real authenticity.
Yeah, and like you said, you see people who are getting into training, fitness, bodybuilding, whatever, specifically to become influencers, to make money. And I think with rare exceptions, I think if you go into it for that reason, you're destined to fail because you don't have any real love or passion for it. This is somebody who had a deep driving passion, lifting heavy weights, getting big, and he just started documenting it. I don't think he ever had the expectation or the intention of becoming rich and famous. It just sort of followed because, like you said, he speaks to a whole generation. They can identify him. This is another kid like them with the curly hair and the hat and the, he's not fake. You see some of this content and you almost think these people are reading off a teleprompter, or it seems so rehearsed, so staged. You know, they're not being their authentic selves. And you can tell what we're seeing on Instagram or YouTube, that's not who they really are day-to-day real life if you ever met them. And I've actually met some of them and I've seen that where they're two different people. And Sam, I'm sure, is exactly the same kid off camera as he is on camera.
I'd be really disappointed if it turned out that he was manufactured and it was all planned from day one, and his whole persona and his personality. I'd be really like, oh no, you know, like sometimes you know, some of these influencers and stuff, I feel like sometimes, you know, they've got like these management teams that get hold of them, and they, you know, these these pop star audition things, you know, you can see you see them when they go for the auditions and then they become famous. You see the transformation they go through, and it's none of it by their own design. It's always by someone looking at them and saying, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change your hair, I'm going to do this. But I think with Sam, like you never see him around people. He's just, I mean, I saw him at the, I was picking Ronnie up for the first tour we did in March at the Arnold UK. And I picked him up and he was saying goodbye to his family. And Sam just walked through and he was just by himself you know, he wasn't dressed differently. That's how he dresses. And I think as long as he maintains that, I think he'll always be popular. I think he's going to be popular for a few years. And the thing is, it looks like he might end up being a pretty good classic pro, because I mean, I'm not expecting him to win it, because I mean, he's going up against Summerfield Wesley, and I think they might, like I said on the last power, I think as long as he looks good and in condition and he's improved from when he turned pro only a year ago, I think it's a win for him. But I just hope he turns up in good condition. But like I said, almost competing for him is like is icing on the cake. It's not like some pros, they have to do well to maintain their income, their contracts, and Sam doesn't have to do any of that. I mean, he didn't even have to compete to be, you know, to make a living and make a good living and be popular and be able to make a living at it. But some pros, you know, the moment they stop competing, that's it. Their income just goes off a cliff. So I like the fact that there's no pressure on him. He's just doing what he loves, and I think that's really cool. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and you know, two things. He never had to compete, like you said, because putting yourself up on stage, you risk losing. And then there were so many haters who would have been like, "Ha! You see, he was just an Instagram bodybuilder. He was all hype. He was never that good." But he did that, and then he turned pro. And of course, he didn't have to ever compete as a pro. He could have done what so many people do.
Yeah.
But change their Instagram to IFBB Pro Sam Sulek.
He could have just done it as a one-off, just to sort of say, right, okay, then I'll I started competing because there was a few people because I was in the media like nearly 10 years when I decided to compete. But I'd always been like training and weight training, bodybuilding, looked like I trained. But there was that small pocket of people that were a bit like, he's writing about us. Who does he think he is? He's never even competed. So that was one of the reasons I competed, because I thought I want to shut those people up. And I think that's what maybe at the back of his mind, Sam was like, you know, maybe he didn't feel like not feel like a fraud, because he's got a physique. He goes to the gym. He trains hard. He eats well. But maybe there was something nagging him, just saying, right, okay, I think I need to sort of, do this, because it's not like his popularity was starting to stagnate or drop off. I mean, it's not like he needed to compete at all to kind of even maintain his popularity, let alone grow it. But now doing that and also winning, I mean, I'm not looking at him thinking he's going to be challenging for the Olympia title anytime soon, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't have to. And like you said, he could have got his pro card and never ever wanted to compete. And no, I don't think anyone really would have blamed him for it, because he's got so much going on. It's kind of it's like I said, it's kind of a gamble for him really again. But like I said, all he has to do is turn up looking good under those lights and get some nice pictures, and to be able to put the pictures side by side with the year before and saying, was he 24 and his physique is better than it was last year? That's a win. So I hope some of those fans aren't disappointed when they clearly don't. Maybe there's some people out there that are expecting him to come in and win this. Maybe they think he's Mr. Olympia classic material. I don't know, but I mean, they're probably going to get a rude awakening. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for him, because it's not going to affect anything of what he's doing. So good on him. And like I said, going into the Arnold Classic, I bet Brian Powers and Arnold are very, very happy having him in the show.
Goodness,
and
great.
it's good. I think it's great. I think it's really, really great. It's great. Like I said, he's old school, and I like it. And I think he's cool.
Yeah, 7 million Instagram followers.
Fuck, 7! Wow.
And they're going to be watching that stream, whether it's free or they'll pay for it. A lot of these kids, they'll pay for it. So
that's more followers than you and me combined, Ron.
Almost, yeah, just a little bit. But, another thing I want to give him credit for is he could have done. There are roughly 100 Classic Physique Pro shows a year, and a lot of them are in far-flung places, and there's not a lot of great competition. He could have picked any one of those, and probably as long as he came in great condition, would have been a top 5, top 6 guy. Maybe even possibly could have won one of those. Instead, he goes into the Arnold Classic, which is the highest paying Classic Physique Pro show in the industry, pays more than the Olympia. And he's going up against Sommerfeld, Wesley. Is it Menega? There's a bunch of really tough guys in this.
Yeah.
So, and the last thing I want to say is, what would a coach really have done differently? He's going to come in condition because he did it on his own as an amateur. But what difference would a coach really have made? Maybe a little sharper, maybe a little fuller?
Well, all that would have happened is if he did look good, they'd have been able to take credit for all the improvements. So now it's like if he started working with a coach the last 6 weeks and he shows up looking better than he did last year, then you've got the coach stepping forward saying, well, all these improvements are because of what we did in the last 6 weeks. That's what people think. So it's good that he's that's why I never had a coach, because I never even considered it at the time, but I didn't want to give any credit to anybody else. I wanted to be able to, if I look good, I wanted to be able to say, I've done this, and I've done everything myself, So I think maybe, it's the same with him, It's like he said, if I fall on my sword and it's and I don't look good or I bomb out, then it's on me, and I like that. I like that attitude. I think it's ballsy. Yeah,
and I mean, the way the placing is going to be determined, obviously condition is going to be critical, but shape and structure, they're so important. And when you're judging a show, you've judged, I've judged, shape and structure, size, all these things, and a coach wasn't going to really do much to change any of those factors anyway. They're not going to change his genetics. Yeah. So he's doing great. All right, let's turn to our good friend. Let's listen to what Nick Walker had to say about coaching.
So I guess now would be a good time to say I'm going to do my own coaching. I'm going to do it myself. I know what I'm doing. Of course, I'll have an eye of close people that are around me. But I want to do this myself. I'm tired of coaches. I don't want anyone around. I know what I need to do. I know what works and what doesn't for my body. And, it's already working. So we're going to handle business my way. So I guess now.
All right, well. He's going up against people who are coached by Andrew Jack is coached by Chris Aceto. Hadi Chupan is probably coached still by Hani Rambod secretly. Martin Fitzwater, Martin coached by Boss of Outlaw. I mean, he's going up against people who are coached by the very best coaches in the business right now of this generation. And he has the confidence just to take it upon himself, which he's competed as a pro all these times with a coach. He's never done it on his own. And now to go into the biggest money show in history, we've never had a first place of $750,000 in the sport of bodybuilding.
Good point.
And he's putting $750,000 of money on the line, doing it himself. Wow.
Yeah, because if he messes up, then it's like, then he's missed out on a big chunk of prize money. If it knocks him down from, I don't know, say 2nd to 5th or something like that, and people and then he admits it himself, it's like, maybe I should have had a coach who probably would have made me beat this guy or that guy because this would have looked better and this would look different. But then again, okay, Samson at the Olympia, he had a coach and look what happened. He lost 25 pounds of muscle. So it's not like things can happen and they don't get noticed, because sometimes you can have a coach and things still don't get noticed. Because Samson losing 25 pounds of muscle with no better condition. At what point between 0 and 25 did you think, okay, But this is I bet the coaches, the actual top coaches, I bet some of them are a little bit like, it's in our interest that Nick doesn't do well here, because you know what I mean? Because if he shows up looking the best he's ever looked, then thing is, he said it there. He said, I've got people around me that I trust to look at me. It worked for Dorian Yates. Dorian Yates had Kerry Kayes, Brian Batcheldor. He had my friend Paul Baxendale. He had Leroy. Basically what they do at the end of every week, they go into the into part of Temple Gym and say, right, come on, have a look at Dorian, have a look at Doz. He'd strip off, he'd do his compulsories, and then Dorian would say, what do you think? Because I've been there when I was sitting there with Roy Patterson or Wayne Robinson, my training partner. He just won the British finals, by the way, the 70 kilo finally after like 20 years. He finally won it at age 52. He improved a lot training with me, mind. Because he was a 70 kilo guy, and he was always getting like top 6 of the British finals. But his training was so sloppy. So I basically made sure that every single rep was more like this, this kind of training. And he went from 6th to 2nd just by purely paying attention to his form and his technique. It's like when Neil Hill, I said to when I introduced him to Zach Khan, and I said, "How's it going? How's it going?" Because I introduced him, I wanted to see, I wanted an update. And he said, "Giles, I'm not fucking surprised that guy's never won the British finals." He said his cardio, he said he just plods. He said, so I was pressing the button, speeding it up in the incline. He says, and his form is shit. He said, he's strong. He said, I've seen him bench 6 plates. He says, my God, his form is terrible. He said, but honestly, I've got him training right. I've got him doing cardio right. And he says, you're going to see the best version of Zach Khan ever. And he did. He won the British finals. And that was the best he'd ever looked, bar none. So Nick now, it's like you said, sorry, going back to what I was saying about like Dorian and stuff like that. All you need is someone just to sort of give it to you straight, someone to say, like Samson had like a, coach that was actually said to him, you need to, you're dropping too much weight now. Maybe you look like, can we get on the scale? I know we're not using the scale, but can we get on it because we need to find out. So as long as Nick's got someone there to say, yep, you're looking good. Because the thing is, for me, it's not about, because I keep having this disagreement with people online about the Olympia. I thought his condition at the Olympia was fantastic. Huh. So why are people saying that he was off and then blaming it on the coach? And I mean, they were saying he looked better at the finals because he was flat at pre-judging, but I didn't see it. I mean, he doesn't look amazing there, does he? He doesn't look rock hard like normal there, does he? He looks a bit spongy there.
Well, this is the finals, I think.
Oh shit! Actually, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. The photos I was looking at, he was looking a lot hot, especially from the back. I thought he was absolutely bang on from the back, but he looks watery here.
I mean, we've seen him better, obviously, but this wasn't a bad look. I think the issue with him was the midsection, and
that's nothing to do with condition.
No, condition looks great, I think. I mean, it's as good as it's ever been. I mean, look, this is probably the most conditioned I think he ever was. The 23 Arnold Classic where he took second behind Samson.
Is that 21 you've got there or 23?
This is 23 when Samson won and Nick was second and Andrew was. Yeah. So that's the year that him and Jansen went for condition. And I think this is conditioned he ever was. And it was a pretty damn good look.
Understand this. I don't understand this. We're going for condition this year. It's like you've got to go condition every bloody year. It's like I'm going to bring 100% to this show. It's like, well, and then I'm going to look even better for the next one. It's like, well, you've got to bring 100% to every single show. You should never, otherwise you get what happened like with Andrea Shaw when she did the the Rising Phoenix and admits she's coming in at 85, 90% and then gets beaten by somebody who is 100%. It's like this attitude of, like if you've got a qualifier or a pro show to qualify or a pro card qualifier and it's 4 or 5 weeks out from your main show, make sure you bring your 100% to the first show and then just try and get even better for the next one. I don't, so we're going for condition bullshit. I just think you should go for condition every single show because, that's basically the criteria in bodybuilding has never changed. It's always been, because the thing is, when he looks tighter, he looks actually like bubblier. Everything looks more rounded and full. Everything's popping more. His legs look good there. Because he's obviously in better condition. But the thing is, I've never really known Nick to struggle with condition anyway. So I mean, I've never looked at him and thought. Because the thing is, a guy like that who doesn't have the smallest waist or like the prettiest shape, if you're not in condition, you just look like a blob. So you've kind of got to come in shredded and gnarly, and then with that amount of size, it looks so bloody impressive. And that's one of the reasons why he's been so successful.
Yeah, see, I hope he brings something similar to this look with the tighter midsection. Because look at the midsection there. And I mean, look at it here.
Yeah,
it's a lot thicker.
but do you know what annoys me is the comments about the midsection, and nothing seems to be getting done about it. It's like, no, I'll tell you what does bother me is when we see all these pictures of him in his bathroom, and I'm not saying it's Photoshop, but it's a careful angle, and people are going, look, he's fixed the midsection, and then 4 weeks later he shows up at the show and it looks exactly the same, because these updates, unfortunately, are making people they're like that. They look at that and you think you look at that picture there and you think there's no problem with his waistline. If that was the first time you were seeing a picture of Nick Walker and saying, what do you think of this new guy? You'd be like, yeah, looks great, nice small waist, wide shoulders, big arms, looks freaky. You don't think, but then when they get on stage and then they got the midsection doesn't quite look like that. It's always a disappointment.
Yeah, see, I never know, like right here, the midsection doesn't look the same. Obviously, it's a different pose and everything, but I honestly think the whole key for Nick is whether he's coaching himself or someone else is coaching him, is keeping that midsection smaller, because he's so big and thick. He's one of the most massive guys of this entire generation of bodybuilders. There's no, he could lose a little bit of size and fullness in exchange for a smaller waist. And I think overall, it's going to have a better impact.
Hang on, Ron. Ronnie tried that in 2002 Olympia, and all he did was everything came in small and the waist stayed the same. That approach doesn't always necessarily, it's not always a case of, okay, let's drop 10 pounds and we'll probably drop 2 inches off the waist, because I've seen it happen where guys drop 20 pounds and the waist stays the same. And then the shoulder to waist looks even worse. So that's not always the case. I think that's a fallacy. I think that's been proven wrong many, many times. So if Nick Walker or a Nick Walker type physique came to you and said, Ron, please coach me. I'm getting penalized for my waist. I need to bring it in. It's the only thing holding me back. I've got size condition. I'm not lacking really any body parts. I'm getting condition. What can we do? Like Ruli did, but before he came back in 2016 with his weight. So I've said many, many times, it can be done. It can be improved. But my frustration is whether he's coaching himself. Okay, then what is he going to do then to tackle the midsection, or is he just going to be in denial about it? Because it seems to me sometimes if you keep bringing, like with Ramy all those years, kept bringing the same package, and yes, he was getting bigger, but the strengths were the same, the weaknesses were the same, and nothing was being fixed. It was just the bigger, same version of what we'd seen before, and not really any improvements. Because yes, you can get bigger, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're improved if things aren't starting to balance out. Because if you've got a weak body part, putting 20 pound on it's not going to make that weak body part go away. It's just going to basically put size on and probably draw more attention to the fact you've got a weak body part. So Ron, if he came to you, what tick list would you do to say, okay, we've got 6 months or we've got a year to bring the waistline in? What would you do? What would you suggest?
I would cut down the food portions. I would cut down the GH, cut down the insulin, have him doing vacuums every morning. I'm not a huge believer in the waist trainer, but I think it can't hurt. At least it makes people more aware of keeping their stomach sucked in at all times. So I think I
worked for Ruli. Ruli admitted to me on an interview, and I said, so what about this? Because I saw the video online. So I brought up when I saw that video when he answered the hotel room door, and he had one of those corsets on. And it's funny because I told you this before, and he says I didn't really want to wear one. He says because I thought they were kind of gay. He said that in the interview, and I just love Ruli even more because he was so innocent when he said it. He said it like I was just like, God, he just said that on camera, and he was like, he thought it was kind of gay. He says, but it worked. It worked. I was like, do you know what? I'd love to find that interview and find that clip because he was completely innocent to the fact of what he just said. Really, it was it was a very funny moment when I was doing Global. But the thing is, my point is, he used it and he said he hated using it. He said it was a pain in the ass. He said it was uncomfortable. He said, but it worked.
Yeah, I mean, but let me ask you this. Do you think it works for any actual physiological reason? Because if it's squishing in your internal organs, which, what else is it going to be doing? Wouldn't they just go back to normal after you take it off? I mean, you can't compress your organs and they stay that way.
Well, obviously the whole waist trainer thing started in the bikini category because remember that 2019 when Isa Puccini won the bikini, we were there and I sat there because I wasn't really that familiar with her, and I was sat there looking at some notes and I looked up and I went 1-2-1's won that. I instantly drawn because this girl had a tiny little waist. In fact, her waist was like freakishly small. I mean, I swear to God, it was probably closer to 20 inches than it was to 30. I mean, it was like, if anything, it looked too small. And if you look at her in the last couple of years, her waist doesn't look as like, it doesn't look like whoa, like freakishly small. So maybe she stopped using the waist trainer because, you know, just maybe didn't feel the need to, maybe just it wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth the uncomfortable. But it all started in the bikini division, because obviously it's not about having the biggest delts or the biggest lats or the biggest pecs in a bikini. It's about having the small waist and the cap shoulders and the glutes, and you know, so all those girls were sort of jumping on it first, and then the guys were kind of following suit, you know. So and the thing is, really proved it can work, you know. So, and the thing is, you've got two types of waist issues. You can have the distension, and then you can have the width. And I found personally from what I've seen guys starting to use, either start to use insulin or up the insulin, or, you know, use it more prominently in their prep. It's usually, that's what causes the width. That's what causes the width. And then the stomach, like bloat, usually comes actually from the heavy carb ups. It comes from, I mean, Ronnie said to me, he said, I didn't have like a huge gut in the off season. He says, but Chad Nichols had me eating so much food. He says, and then obviously you're pumping all that rice and all those carbs in with the insulin, you know. He said, because he would come to his room and he said he was they have these Tupperware containers full of rice. He said, and then all the needles would be loaded up with insulin. I've seen it. He said, no, he said, I'm telling you. And I won't tell. There's another top pro. I went to his hotel room and the coach was over him shouting, saying, you got to eat that and make sure you take your insulin when you take the carbs in. And, you know, and he was like, oh God, I can't. He barely was like, you know, so that's what causes the distension. That's why you should never carb up too late. I mean, I was always told to like carb early, like in the week. If you compete on Saturday, like start carbing Monday, Tuesday, because if you need to pull back, you've got a day or so to pull it back, and obviously fill the muscle, but also empty the stomach. So it's that timing, because we've seen guys that have, you know, then that's why I would say, you know, when you hear about these athletes flying into a show the night before, and you're thinking you're not going to look your best on stage, and then what happens is they either come in flat or they panic eat. And they try to do a carb up in a very short window, and they end up with the stomach. It's like with the weigh-ins, the classic in 212. When they're too late, my heart always sinks a little bit, because I just think, oh, you're not going to be carbing up until after you've weighed in, because you can't, because you're on the limit. So those are the guys that either come in flat or they either come in because they haven't got enough time to get the food in to fill out, because they have to suck it right down to get under 212 or the classic weight limit. And then, or they just leave it too late, and then they end up with a distended stomach. And the classic guy with a distended stomach, that's just instant last place.
You're done. Yeah. So I guess, you know, but that's something a good coach would be able to really monitor closely. That's why they're going to their room every hour or every 90 minutes, looking at them. You've eaten this meal. Let's see how you look now. How's the midsection? Because things can change so fast. You know, I remember Jose Raymond. You know, I'm still good friends with him, obviously, but I knew him when he was competing and winning shows, and he was very cognizant of the fact that he could have a big gut if he wasn't careful on stage, if he carved up too much. So on contest day, he would barely eat. He says he would just take little nibbles, little bites, and little tiny sips of water, because he never wanted to risk having a distended gut on stage, because then the guys with the better, he knew he was going up against guys with better shape and aesthetics, even though 212, it's not like classic, but still, if you have a bubble gut in classic, you're done.
Yeah.
So he had Chris Aceto coaching him the whole time.
I remember that there was a couple of times in Dexter's career where I thought he was starting to dip. And I remember the second and final time when I thought, okay, he's done now, was in 2012. Yeah. And obviously he won the Olympia, won the Arnold Classic, and he showed up. And he had, because he was like Nathan Diaz, he had a long waist. And then his lower abs, I remember, stood on stage and he wasn't even trying to hold it in. I think maybe he thought, okay, I'm clearly not winning this. And he knew. But I remember thinking, okay, now this is his physique starting to show wear and tear. And he ended up in 5th place. Yeah. And then the year after, then he went to the Masters Olympia, looked probably one of his best ever, because I was there in Miami. I was there partying with Crystal and all them lot and you guys. Oh, yeah. And so Pete McGough and everyone was at the hotel. It was cool. And then he kind of like, and then the 2012, he kind of made this surge comeback and he looked amazing, and he won the Arnold Classic in 2012. Yeah. No, it wasn't 2012. 2013. Sorry, 2013. But yeah, sorry. The point was, I said, how did you get that distension then? And apparently it was because he was carving up on George Farah told to carve up on hamburgers.
Oh, hamburgers.
So he'd obviously gone flat and panicked. Yeah. And George must have said, "Oh, eat a hamburger; it'll fill you out." And I think maybe he had too many because it really, and obviously the timing of it, whatever he ate, didn't agree with him, and all that prep was ruined. All that prep was ruined because he ended up looking, and I think that's why he just gave up, and in the end, his stomach was just hanging out on stage. And I was thinking, okay, he's done now. He's at the tail end of his career, and then he came back and carried on another like 7-8 years. You know?
I think most really good coaches, and Nick will probably do this on his own, will do a test run. Yeah. Maybe the week before, carb up and see how that affects them and take notes. This is in pictures, and this is how I'm looking after I had this food and that 90 minutes later, because the timing is just so incredibly tricky. These guys want to be full and ripped to shreds and have a small midsection all at the same time. It's almost impossible to strike a perfect balance between those things.
Do you think he should be doing the Arnold Classic?
Why not? Yeah, why not? I mean, what's the worst? The worst he can possibly place in my mind is fourth, unless I can't see him coming in out of shape. He's not going to be. He never got out of shape. He stayed very lean since the Olympia.
Mate, he's going to be disappointed with fourth though.
If he ends up in fourth, of course he's going to be.
If Hadi, Andrew, and Martin show up like as we expect them to, he ain't. I don't think he's. The reason I'm saying I think it was a mistake for him doing the Arnold Classic is because I think he needed more than 6 months, including a prep, to sort the midsection out. If I'd have been him, I know the thing is the prize money's so good, you know, and they would have been you know, Brian and Arnold, they would have been like, get that Nick Walker in, he pulls the crowd, he's popular, you know, because he's a you know, he's box office, isn't he, you know? Oh, yeah. So I think if I'd have been him personally, I mean, obviously it means nothing. I would have like taken that time where he would have been prepping for the Arnold Classic to try and fix the midsection, bring the chest up, to match the shoulders and arms a bit more, bring up the quads. And I would have rather than, because I don't know, I'm not really sure what improvements he can make, unless he's just trying to redeem himself, you know, like a knee-jerk reaction from the 6th place at the Olympia. Because, I mean, people like some of his fans talk about like 6th place being a disaster at the Olympia. Still top 6 in the world. You know, and he, you know, there's some bloody good bodybuilders that beat him, you know, the best of the best, you know. So I don't know. I mean, it's he's in, so let's see what happens. But I think it would take Martin, Hadi, or Hadi, Andrew, or Martin to be off for Nick to beat them, because I think Nick needs a bit of time to, you know, bring those areas in and up, you know. So I just but you know what? He looked so good at that Pittsburgh show, didn't he? I think that was a robbery. That was a robbery.
Indeed. Well, yeah. Getting back to the 6th place being a horrible outcome for Nick. Consider that's his worst placement ever at the Mr. Olympia. He's been 3rd place and 5th place, right? He's only done 3 Olympias.
Yeah. And look how good like Brandon Curry and Vito looked. I mean, no one really would have like gone crazy if they'd have beaten Nick as well. I mean, so you know, I mean, so when Bob Chick was saying 8th place, I mean, I think it's like, oh, God, that's the thing. There's this if you don't win, it's a loss and it's a failure mentality. I don't like that. And I think sometimes, you know, the guys with the real like crazy fan bases like Nick, you know, they're like bloody. They want to jump off a bridge if he doesn't win every single show. And it's like, no, bodybuilding's not like that, you know? Look at Samson. I mean, Samson just, you know, he went from, you know, the thing is, he could easily make a comeback this year and win the Olympia back this year, you know? So it's not, but I don't know. I think if Nick comes in and he looks really, really good, which I'm kind of hoping for. Well, we're all hoping for. Of course. It'd be interesting what ramifications that will have for coaches in the future, because Quint's doing it by himself, and you know, and I think you don't really learn anything. I know. I mean, I've spoke to like, you know, friends with like Patrick Tour and Neil Hill and stuff like that, and they said they've got these kind of clients that won't question a single thing. They just follow everything to the letter, and then when the guys get to the end of their 20-year career, you try and interview them and talk to them about, you know, we've interviewed them about bodybuilding, and they don't really know much. Or I've trained with some of these guys, and they're just clueless because they've never had to learn anything for themselves through trial and error. Sure. It's all been, I just do as I'm told. I go over there, I do this for how many reps, and I train hard, and I do this, and then I eat this, and I take that, and it's like they haven't got a clue. Like it's like for me, I was too OCD, I was too hands-on. I needed to know exactly what everything was doing, and for me, it was part of the whole. It was a part of the enjoyment of the process. And maybe Nick, well, because by the sounds of it, I mean, I don't like the throwing the like you put comments online about sort of coaches cause them a lot of stress and stuff like that. I'm thinking, well, probably the other way around, mate. You probably cause your, you know what I mean? I just think, come on, I just think, come on, guys, you're going to keep it private, keep it fully private. Do you know what I mean? Don't sort of make out that this, because these guys, these coaches put their heart and soul into it. I mean, I spoke to certain coaches when they've split from certain athletes, let's say, and it really upsets them. I mean, it really it's because these people get very close, they become almost like father figures sometimes, because they're a lot older, these coaches.
Right.
And it really, really devastates them. Do you know what I mean? Because they become, they go through these trials and tribulations and these contests and all these different challenges together. And then all of a sudden they split and everything's online and everyone's got an opinion. And I kind of feel like I felt a bit bad for the coaches, and, sometimes thinking, just keep it private, mate, you're going to do your own thing. Because the thing is now, if Nick turns up to the Arnold Classic and he looks absolutely terrible, it's going to look good for the coach. Do you know what I mean? It's like, the thing is, having said that, like I said before, I thought Nick looked great at the Olympia. I don't think the coach did a bad job at all. I thought he did a great job.
Yeah. So, well, you mentioned Samson. So that brings us to our third and final topic, which I didn't advertise in the thumbnail or anything, but you know what? We'll talk about Nick and Sam. So Samson Dauda, he left Hostile. I think it's been about a month, maybe less than a month. And speculation was running rampant. And now we know, as of yesterday, officially, that he is with the world's largest supplement brand, MyProtein. So good on him. Don't know how much money or anything, that hasn't been made public, and that's really none of our damn business. But if they're the largest supplement brand in the world, I think they can afford to pay him a very nice salary. And he is a Mr. Olympia champion. He's an Arnold Classic champion. So there's the Sandow to prove it. He's well worth it. And like you said, with their support and obviously all the physical gifts and work ethic, he could very well win this Olympia again. But MyProtein, I'm not familiar with all these, because you're more familiar with supplement because you've actually worked in the supplement industry yourself at a high level. So you would know more about this. Yeah. But were you familiar with MyProtein?
Yeah, they've been around years. I mean, what it was, they were the first company to go direct to retailer. Sorry, direct to consumer. So you can buy them in supplement stores, but it's only because they've actually, they've basically insisted. But this was a company that only sold, you could buy online and buy retail, basically. You can't go through a distributor. You can't go through a supplement store. You won't find any of their products in supplement stores, like I said, but they do now. That was their business model. And it upset a lot of the industry, actually, because of all these distributors who spend decades building these brands and building these companies and these relationships, and then and all the gym owners, then all their customers that come and buy supplements from them, and now buying from MyProtein. But that's the business model. They've done very, very well. I used to use their products. I used to buy the green tea capsules and the whey isolate, and then I stopped using them because they give me horrible customer service on something. So I was like, I'm never buying from them again. It was really arrogant, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, it is a big company, a very, very big company. It's a good fit because it's obviously they're British based, thing is it obviously comes down to the De Niro. And if Samson said he wants to be retired by the time he's 45, he's 40 now. Why not go with a company that probably would have signed him? I'd imagine it's at least a 2-3 year deal. I mean, if he's got another 5-year deal, and it's probably it might even be double what he was getting at Hostile, then why would he say no? It's an absolute because it's nice to be able to have the company you're representing or working with. Literally, it's probably a couple of hours drive. I don't know. Maybe it's like 3-hour drive. Better that than having it in a different country. Because I'm pretty sure that there was a reason why Hostile's products weren't available in Europe or the UK or something with the labeling or something. I don't know. I might be wrong on that. But if you've got a company that's literally on your doorstep, also they've got Ryan Terry as well.
Oh.
And who was the other two I saw on there? two other. Was it not Vito? No, obviously not He's with ESN. There was another top name as well I saw on the picture. Was it might have been Vito? No, was it Vito? Well, anyway, like 3 or 4 big names, because obviously Ryan and Samson, both Olympian champions. I mean, Ryan's like literally a couple of hours drive away from Samson. They obviously get on really well. Most of the British athletes do, You
got Sommerfeld.
Sommerfeld, yeah, Sommerfeld. I thought Sommerfeld was ESN. Anyway, So anyway, so it's a really it's good. And like I said, if Samson could have got a really good deal that is guaranteed until he retires, then and say the thing is like he might be an extra 10, 15, it might be an extra 10K, 15K a month for the next 3 to 5 years, say, so absolutely from a business point of view, it's an absolute no-brainer. And it's nice to see as well that there's still very, very good relationships between him and Fouad. And because Fouad's a businessman, he would have understood, like, because Samson is hot property because he is a Mr. Olympia. He is, he's top 5 in the world. So he is going to be, unfortunately, he is going to be wanted by other companies. Now, if a company comes and offers him an extra $5,000 a month, then maybe Samson would have gone, no, I'll stay loyal to Hostile. But, if a company comes along and offers him a deal he cannot refuse because financially it just doesn't make sense, then Fouad will he would probably do the same in his own position. So, it was a good result for Samson. I'm happy for him. And it seems it probably, that kind of security, like what Hostile gave him the security in 2020 when they signed him to that 5-year deal. It's peace of mind. At the end of the day, because there's only so many years he could be earning that much money. Because if he literally wants to be done by his 45, he knows that he can probably still make improvements until he's 45. So maybe he might carry on competing after that. But if that is the goal, then and you've got like a guaranteed amount of money coming in, that's going to take you to literally when you say you're going to finish. Then absolutely fantastic. It's he'd be, it's like I said, it's a no-brainer.
So what do you think about him being 340 pounds with abs?
Oh, I mean, the condition's really good for 340.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's not like a bloated mess, is he? I mean, he looks like, I mean, if that is 340, then I mean, look at the abs. I mean, his abs are sharp.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a lot of body fat there. I mean, it's incredible. I just worry, obviously, because I have my own heart issues. I mean, at 340 pounds, I have to naturally worry and concern myself with the health implications. So I hope that he's on top of everything with Marek Health and the blood work and everything. I'm sure they are. Yeah. I hope that is a healthy 340 because he seems to carry it so well. I mean, he doesn't look like, there's the obliques aren't spilling out over his bloody underwear there, and his face doesn't look like it's about to explode. His eyes aren't all bloodshot. I mean, I've seen guys at like not even 340, like 280, and they look unhealthy, So, but he looks good. I mean, he looks incredible. I mean, for like I said, I don't think there's anyone that can carry the weight that he does as well as he does.
Right. Yeah. As far as the health and stuff, I think a certain amount of risk has to be taken in this sport if you're trying to be Mr. Olympia or get your Mr. Olympia title back. And
Kevin Navrone would disagree.
No, a lot of people will disagree. And in the comments, guys, you're welcome to blast me for saying that. But I mean, if you really want to play it safe in life, you'd be a vegan and you just do Pilates, and you'd have
good point.
Like 20 grams of protein for the whole day, and but this is an extreme sport. He's been the very best in the world, and he tumbled down a few places, and he wants that back. Shit, if I was Mr. Olympia, I'd want to get that back too.
Ron, everyone has a different approach, but like he doesn't like I said, I've seen guys at 50 pounds less than that, and I'd be like, mate, you need to drop some weight, or whatever you're doing, lower it. And from what I understand, he's always been quite conservative, with all that as well. So I hope I'm sure he's been sensible about it. He's not stupid. He looks great. Looks great. I just hope he just forgets about the bodyweight thing now, because he went from not concerning on bodyweight, and it hurt him for the Olympia, because I think if he'd have seen his bodyweight was dropping, he might have put the brakes on. to now is like a knee-jerk reaction to like, oh shit, I've got to get, huge. And because really he hasn't really spoke about the Olympia. He's just kind of brushed it aside and tried to put all the focus onto Prague, where I was there. He did an amazing job in 2 weeks. I mean, I didn't think what he did in those 2 weeks to regain the majority of his physique, in 2 weeks was incredible. I thought it was absolutely mind-blowing. I was shocked when he came out. I was like, I didn't think he could do that in 2 weeks. So hats off to him for that. So I just hope that he doesn't get too obsessed with pushing body weight more and more and more. I hope it's more about correcting, basically the mistakes he made for the Olympia, because all he has to do is bring what he brought in 24, because what he brought in 24 at the Olympia finals was good enough to win the Olympia. And I think if he'd have brought that same package, he would have won again. So taking gambles, I get it as an athlete, like you're taking risks with your health and all these different elements of being a bodybuilder. But it was a gamble, unfortunately, that he felt he needed to take that didn't pay off. But, sometimes you have to take risks in life because what's the phrase? He who dares wins, and he who dares wins.
Yeah, he dares wins. No risk, no reward. But I agree. This was 24 that he has here as a pinned photo. I think this would have won the Olympia in 2025.
Oh, yeah. He would have been a two-time. He would have been 2 times. So maybe he just wants to forget about it because he doesn't want to be reminded of it. But unfortunately, you have to address the elephant in the room. That is, are you going to do that again? Because that's what sponsors and fans kind of want to know about. That's kind of what we're all talking about behind the scenes. It's like, is he going to do that again? Has he learned from this? Because if he has, then watch out, because Samson, he's really the least flawed bodybuilder up there, really. I mean, Andrew's coming up hot, and he's still making improvements, whereas Samson, is he going to bring as good as 24? I mean, I don't know whether he can bring better than 24. Maybe he can. So there's a lot of question marks over, and the thing is, all Samson has to do is just go back to basically that winning formula that so he doesn't need to do anything drastic, and I think that was what, obviously the comments really got to him, and I get it, because Pride's an athlete, and, and you're scrolling and you're spending hours on your phone and all you see is the same old comments, like like I get sick of some of the stuff about Derek and stuff. And I just think, God, what if Derek was reading this? You just think, it must really, like I said last week on the Power, I said, I think these guys need to have their social media handled, because if I was at this level and some of the bullshit I see and some of the hate and some of the hateful comments, I just think I'd take myself off social media altogether, just to sort of purely for my own mental health. Do you know what I mean? But see that there. I mean, that would have won the Olympia this year.
So let's say we see, we all were saying, well, I want to see him super dry and crispy. So now I'm like, forget about that.
yeah. It's that's a funny old sport, isn't it? Funny old sport.
So if he brings this condition, same proportions, same everything, just a little bit bigger and fuller, which if he's at a highest ever body weight now, an all-time high, I see that as being pretty much a foregone conclusion. We see this version a little bit bigger and fuller. I think he beats everybody.
Well, hang on. This footage you're showing here is from the pre-judging, and the pre-judging, it wasn't obvious to me that he was even first or second. It was not. I mean, I didn't even know whether, because when I saw this because it was really dark. I've been watching it here in the studio. It was like I thought Andrew actually looked better. I mean, and then because it was so dark, you couldn't see anything, and I wasn't like, oh, Samson's like top 2 here. But at the finals, that's when Samson came out, and I was just like, holy shit. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that I think he's winning, not just like top 2. I think he's actually winning this now.
This is the finals here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, that was, and the routine and and he came out and the fullness and everything. It was like, it was the best physique up there on stage, because, you break down all the ones with the least amount of flaws out of all the top guys are here at him and Martin. So all him and Martin need to do are nail it. And they're tough to beat, because Hattie's got flaws now. Let's not get a bloody upset around. But at the end of the day, his physique is starting to show wear and tear. You've got Nick. We spoke about that early in this episode. Andrew still has gaps in his physique that he is filling out very, very fast, and I think that's why there's so much excitement around him, because yes, he is. He's already taking steps to improve those. So he's the one coming up who's probably likely to show the most improvements. And then you've got Derek, who's not going to want to lose that title again. So it's going to be interesting, So, but I think with Samson, he has the least amount of he's the most perfect physique up there. And all he has to do is just bring good enough condition, and I think he's I think he's in the conversation, because like some people are just writing him off. I mean, obviously because he was 4th at Olympia, and then he arguably dropped to 5th really because he got beat by Martin, who was also improved for the Olympia.
Yeah.
So like really you could say he's 5th best in the world, but now I think next year, this year, it's you can't take him out of the conversation for being an absolute front runner for the Olympia.
No, I think we could finally see again another. So Derek was the 2nd man in Olympia history to win the title back, because Jay Cutler did in 2009. Mm-hmm. It could actually, I could see it become a pattern in coming years where guys lose the Olympia and then get it back.
Yep.
And let's say
Clarida. I could see Clarida winning the Olympia back, mate, 212.
Yeah. Well, we're talking. Let's keep it to open just for the sake of argument. Okay. Let's say Samson wins it this year. Who's to say Derek or Hadi couldn't win it back in 2027? Wow, we're jumping way ahead in time now.
Oh no, Andrew's coming, mate. Andrew's coming. I've been giving him every day. I'm giving him pep talks. I'm literally speaking to Andrew today. He's got me as his psychological mind coach now, and he believes it now. And he knows that he's going to be, all his food's going to be well cooked, and we're going to look after him when he comes over for his tour. So, because the UK tour has been announced, we've got all the bookings now, we've got it all locked in now. So that's ready to go. And then he goes back to FIBO, and he has some appearances with Cytec, and then he's coming back, and we're doing a world tour. And I've got two countries locked in already. And if I can add another 2, then that's enough for the time amount we give him, because otherwise you're just spending too much time traveling and not actual appearances. So, so obviously I'm 100% behind Andrew. But I mean, I would love to see Samson and Andrew as the last 2 standing at the Olympia, because they're my kind of physiques, purely because they're my kind of physiques. I like tall, wide, aesthetic guys. And the thing is, there's more element of surprise with the taller guys.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more that can be done with their physiques. Like so Samson and Andrew, they could make improvements every single year for the next 5 years. And, and still you could think, you could do more of this, more of that, So whereas the shorter guys, like we spoke about Hadi, I mean, Hadi's incredible, but he's not going to bring anything new, is it?
No.
In the next year or two, or whatever. So, and Derek, Derek I actually preferred his physique a couple of years ago, to be honest. I preferred it when he was like 2022 was that when he did that front relax and his waist was like that. And then when he came back in the Olympia and won it, and he won the Olympia in 23, his physique didn't quite have the same appeal for me. I know I keep saying it, I feel bad for Derek, man. Some of the shit we're seeing online, it's too much, man. It's too much. Guys, you've got to calm it down, man. It's just too, everyone's stepping over the line all the time, and everyone's seeing everybody else doing it, and they're all like, it's making it okay. And I kind of wish Derek might actually. He might want to speak out, actually, maybe do some sort of video, but then does he make himself more of a target, or is he feeding the beast more, or should he just stick to his family life and his training and his kids and his Bible and and his church and his friends and
brand new gym, got a brand new gym in Tampa,
brand new gym, just block out all the noise and say, do you know what, that doesn't make a difference to me. Yeah. But I purely want, I wish there was a way that we could somehow stop it. Do you know what I mean? Because without Derek even having to intervene, because I think maybe speaking out and stuff like this, I think it's too much, man. I mean, they're like, and it's just like 99 out of 100 comments they're just vicious, and they wouldn't say that if they saw him at an expo or something, they'd be in the queue wanting to get a picture with him, or if they bumped into him in a mall, they'd be like, "Oh, Derek Lunsford, can I have a picture, please?" Right. And these are the same little bitches that are online calling him a water buffalo, and the thing is, all these people that know so much about SEO and stuff like that, it's like, mate, you probably don't even take gear or stepped on stage or competed. You don't know what these things are. I mean, I've got a lot of knowledge, but a lot of this stuff, I can't tell, on a lot of these bodybuilders, what they're taking and how they're taking it. And these people speak with such certainty and authority. It's like, I know what he's using. It's like, oh, really, do you? Oh, okay. Wow. It's like idiots, man, idiots.
As far as them attacking him for supposedly injecting things, whether he does or doesn't, are you going to sit here and tell me, looking at the top 10 Mr. Olympia men, that there's not a lot of that going on? If it's done well, you just never notice it.
Exactly. That's my
appreciate
point.
The physique.
It's the ones that do it badly. That's when you can see it. It's or they take the wrong stuff and it does swell up or something like that. Because I've been speaking to some people on the inside, real inside of the industry, coaches and stuff like that, and they tell me what these these athletes are doing and stuff like that. And I'm like, and he said, oh, so-and-so does it, because I got it for him and all this. And it's like, and I've shown him how to do it. And I'm like, I can't tell. And he says, exactly, because it's done right. It's exactly like you said. It's the ones that look like, like you see a body part and it's really improved. And you're thinking because it could never be the reason that maybe he just improved that body part. You know what I mean? Maybe he just, went to town on that body part. Like it does happen when athletes focus on a certain body part for a year and they really, really, or they train it differently, or they get a new trainer, or they start training with someone different and, get some new machine or something. And all of a sudden that body part starts to improve, or they change their approach and stuff like that. So it's
case in point, Momo Benaziza beat Dorian Yates at Dorian's pro debut, 1990 United Champions. Dorian put a picture of Benaziza, I think, in a back lat spread or rear dole bicep on his refrigerator. So he'd see it every day. And so for a whole year, he blasted his back. Dorian had a good back when he turned pro, but it wasn't like, wow. But he came back and took second to Lee Haney the next year with a back that was arguably as good or better than Lee Haney's. So it can be done without injections. Dorian didn't use PMMA in his freaking back.
I've got a picture of you on my fridge, Ron.
Is it the rear lat spread? No.
You with a cake in your mouth.
Yeah, that's more likely. That is it, guys. That is our episode for this week. Give us a follow, Giles_Tiger, and at Ron Harris Muscle. And we've got more stuff to talk about next week. And Giles is busy plotting and planning all these amazing Olympia All-Star tours coming up this year. And we'll talk about the Andrew Jack tour next time. It's going to have the dates locked in and everything.
Yeah. I'm literally the next couple of days I'll be posting the dates because so it's but the UK part's all locked in. It's all sorted now. So I'm working on the world tour now, because these are two tours that we had to split into two, because he said, Giles, I've got to be here for this and here for this. And I said, well, why don't we do it either side and make two tours? And he said, well, that works. So I said, well, there's more money for you, mate. I said, there's more opportunities and more travel. And he said, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope you come to this little place called the United States of America.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. But we'll see. You'll let me know. All right, guys. Thanks for watching Power Hour with me, and of course, the one and only Giles Tiger Thomas. We will see you right here next.